we've got to have a serious conversation about follow-ups and about Nimble. Now, I know that follow-ups is a subject that I talk about a ton, and I've done podcast episodes on follow-ups in the past, and so you've heard me harp on the importance of follow-up. But something has happened recently that has totally and completely changed the way that I am doing my follow-ups, and I'm excited about it. And I want to tell you about it because I think that it is going to completely change the way that you are doing follow-ups as well. And it's a new feature that has been built into Nimble, which is the CRM that I use. And so that's what I want to talk to you about in this episode. First, though, we've got to talk about follow-ups and why you're not doing it. I've coached a lot of voice actors. It is not uncommon for me to have 5 or 6 coaching sessions a day, 5 days a week. And in that time, and in all the voice actors that I've talked to, I've come up with a list of, I would say 4 main reasons why voice actors aren't doing follow-ups. First and foremost, it's because they're afraid of being annoying. Secondly, it's because they don't know what to say or claim they don't know what to say in a follow-up. And so when you don't know what to say, it's easier to just not do it. Third, they don't have a system in place that can hold them accountable to doing the follow-up, so you forget. Quite honestly, you just forget to do the follow-up. Or you can't remember who you have and haven't followed up with because you don't have a system in place to keep it organized. And then the fourth one is they say they don't have time. So let's address each of those 4 things individually first. When you have something of value to offer, you are not being annoying. Let me repeat that. When you have something of value to offer, you're not being annoying. You're being helpful. You're being useful. You're being a solution provider. If you're targeting the right people, seldom will a follow-up come across as annoying. And quite frankly, if it does, then what happens? They unsubscribe. They ask you to not send them any more emails. Big deal. What did you lose as a result of that? You've lost absolutely nothing other than a contact who is probably never going to hire you in the first place. So actually, it makes your life easier. So don't sweat being annoying. Just make sure that you're targeting the right people with the right message. Don't know what to say. This is the second most common thing that I hear. So my follow-up strategy has always been to find a way to add value to the recipient. What can I do that puts value in their inbox, that gives me a good reason for reaching out? And reaching out to say, hey, do you have any work for me? Is not necessarily a good reason to reach out. So the things that I'm thinking about, how can I be a solution provider? How can I address a specific pain point? How can I add value to their work? And that might be that I add value to their work through the work that I specifically am doing and have to offer, right? I offer value to their e-learning course by being an engaging narrator. But it could also be that I add value in some other way. I could add value by saying, hey, I heard this podcast on video marketing the other day, and I thought that some of the information in here might be useful to you, so I wanted to forward it. That is another way that I can add value to their work. And then, of course, how can I make their life easier? So these are the questions that I'm asking myself, and then trying to write follow-up emails that fit into one of those categories. One focus per email. I think this is the other thing. We try to say too much in an email. And so for me, one of the things that I've gotten a lot better at is saying less, but being much more targeted and intentional with it. So one focus, one call to action per email. That way, if I have 5 or 6 things that I can offer a client. So for example, my home studio with Source Connect for directed sessions. That could literally be one thing. My background in teaching the adult learner, that could be another separate email that has appeal to companies who are doing e-learning. It would be common for you to list all of the different things that you have to offer in a follow-up. I have a home studio. I have Source Connect. I have the ability to be an engaging narrator for e-learning because I understand the e-learning space and have worked in the e-learning space. And you put all these things and you line list all of these things in an email. But how do you turn one email into 5? By breaking out each individual thing that you offer, each individual problem that you solve, each individual pain point that you can address into an individual email. Not having a system in place is another one that comes up often. The larger your database grows, obviously, the harder that it becomes to maintain regular communication with everyone in it. And this is especially true if you do not have a proper system in place. So that is where my CRM comes into play. And particularly, this is where I'm using sequences in Nimble. Nimble is the CRM that I have been using since I think around 2016. There are a lot of different CRMs that are out there. I encourage you to test drive some different ones if you want, but Nimble is the one that I settled on. I've been able to make it do all of the things that I need it to do. And as they've continued to improve the CRM over the years, added new functionality into it, it's only reinforced my decision to stick with Nimble. So I use the functionality of my CRM to create automated reminder cycles so that I'm not forgetting. I now have a system in place. The fourth reason why people are not doing follow-ups, they have no time. Follow-up is something you need to make time for, period. Because without a follow-up strategy, I promise you, you are leaving money on the table. It really is that simple. So either you have to prioritize the task or you have to automate the task. Thanks to Nimble Sequences, which is a new feature in the CRM, automating the task has just become easier than ever. Now, I know this is probably going to sound like an infomercial for Nimble Sequences, and I don't mean for it to, not necessarily anyway, but this has been a game changer for me. And I think if you use the functionality of this new system, it can be a game changer for you as well. So Sequences came out in the summer, and it took me a little bit to have an opportunity to sit down and really play with it. And I still have a ton to learn, just to be clear. But I want to say kind of late August, early September is when I got my first couple of sequences put together. And so they've been running for about 2 months now. And now that I can look at how that is working, I got the benefit of some hindsight because they've been running for a while. I can say, holy mackerel, game changer. So in a nutshell, basically you can write a series of emails that can be triggered to release at specific intervals. That is the most basic explanation of Nimble Sequences. There's obviously a greater functionality to it than that. But at its most basic level, you can write a whole bunch of emails and you can decide when those emails will get sent. And what this now does is it allows you to fully automate your follow-ups. So as one example, I'm currently running an e-learning prospect follow-up sequence. So this sequence contains 10 different emails, with one being delivered every 30 days. Again, this is fully automated. If a person replies, they can be automatically removed from the sequence. If a person unsubscribes, they will be automatically removed from the sequence. But the greater point here is I spent, I don't know, maybe a day and a half writing out this sequence. So a little bit of time investment up front. But now that it's done, my follow-ups to an entire segment of my CRM, in this case, e-learning prospects, is now fully and completely automated for the next 10 months. I don't have to think about it. It's just done. It's just going to exist, and it's going to run happily and smoothly in the background. If I add a couple of more emails, which ultimately I intend to do, I will literally have 1 year of follow-ups fully automated that I do not have to think about. That is a game changer. Imagine the freedom of never having to stress about follow-ups for an entire year. Sounds pretty great, right? So rather than forgetting to do them or not sending them frequently enough, just automate the whole entire process. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. It really is absolutely brilliant. The fact of the matter is that voice actors who are crushing direct marketing are the voice actors who have a follow-up system in place. So let me give you a few arguments to the debate of why you need to have a follow-up strategy in play. Staying top of mind consistently for the long haul is going to lead to more work. Bottom line. So as an example, in October, I submitted my first commercial audition for a prospect that I've been following up with since 2021. I wasn't always following up as often as I should, but now that that prospect has gone into one of my sequences, those follow-ups have become automatic, which means that they have become more consistent. And it's already working because, like I said, I had the opportunity to submit my first commercial audition. Now, that opportunity with that particular prospect would not have happened if I hadn't done my follow-ups. And how do I know? Because they told me as much. In the email that they sent inviting me to audition, they specifically talked about my follow-up strategy and keeping myself top of mind. When a client is ready to book, sometimes they just book the voice actor who is the one that they are thinking about at that point in time. Like, it really can be that simple. It's convenient is really what it comes down to. Sometimes the voice actors who are getting the auditions and the opportunities are the ones who are just consistently present. Number 2, building relationships is so key to all of this because people are much more likely to work with people that they know, like, and trust. So how do you get to know, like, and trust someone? By building a relationship. That can happen through email. That can happen through social media. That can happen through Zoom calls. It can happen through in-person networking. There's a lot of different ways that you can ultimately build that relationship. But relationship building is the natural extension of consistent follow-up. If you are sending one email to these people and then you're never communicating with them ever again, you're not building a relationship with them. You're not giving them the opportunity to get to know, like, and trust you. And so you've got to be in front of them on a regular basis. That does not mean, just to be clear, that you have to email them all the time. Part of your follow-up strategy could be social media. It could be consistently posting on social media. It could be engaging consistently with their social media. I mentioned in-person networking or inviting them to jump on a call every once in a while. These are things that can work, but the bottom line is you have to have a follow-up strategy in place. While we're busy thinking that we're being annoying, which is the number one reason why voice actors don't follow up, I want to give you something to think about on the other side of that coin. If I reach out to you one time offering a solution or a service, and you never hear from me again, how seriously are you going to take my offer? You're not. In fact, 10 minutes after that email lands, you're going to completely forget that I even offered it in the first place. On the other hand, if I check in with you a few times, each time maybe outlining a little bit further how that service could add value to you or make your life easier or solve a specific problem for you, I'm demonstrating my commitment. Aren't you more likely to consider what I have to say at that point? I know that works for me in a lot of different ways. So while you are sitting there avoiding follow-ups because you think it's going to be perceived as annoying, other business owners and entrepreneurs, read buyers, are looking at follow-ups as a sign of professionalism and dedication. Another one is reclaiming missed opportunities. There are quite literally 1,000 reasons why somebody didn't reply to your email, and only one of them is that they were annoyed. They were in a meeting when the email landed. They were driving. They were mowing the lawn. They were in the middle of another project. They were at their kids' dance recital. They were in the bathroom. Right when your email landed, their wife went into labor. Not a priority time to be answering an email at that point. They meant to respond, but they totally forgot because they received 2,468 other emails that day. Successes in the follow-up. The second, the third, the 10th email. That might be the one that gets you the audition or lands you the gig, but you will never know if you don't follow up. Follow-up is how you reclaim those opportunities that might otherwise go missed. Let me give you some numbers on follow-up, okay? Numbers and data clearly show that follow-ups lead to higher conversions. So if I only ever sent one email to every lead that I've ever reached out to, I would quite literally not have a business, and this podcast would not exist. 2% of sales are made on the first contact. 2%. 60% of customers say no before saying yes. 80% of sales require a minimum of 5 follow-ups. 70% of marketers only send 1 email. When you put all of those statistics together and look at them from a macro level, what that says to me is 98% of people need to hear from me more than once in order to make a decision. 80% of people need to hear from me at least 5 times in order to make a decision. And 70% of the people who are out there doing the marketing are not actually doing this part of the marketing, which means that there's only 30% of us who are actually competing for all of that work, because there's only 30% of us who are actually doing the thing. Send the follow-up. It really is that simple. Send the follow-up in an automated way. It becomes even more simple. So if you're not using Nimble, I definitely recommend that you at least take it for a free test drive. And again, I don't want this to be an infomercial for Nimble, but this sequences thing is huge. Nimble.com/MarcScottVO. Nimble.com/MarcScottVO. You can go and you can sign up. It'll be in the show notes. You'll get an extended free trial. Spend a little bit of time evaluating sequences. Right now, I am running 3 different sequences. I have a nurture sequence or a follow-up sequence for corporate video prospects, which is 10 emails that is going to be sent out once a month for the next 10 months. I took that exact sequence, duplicated it, tweaked it so that the content was very specific to e-learning, and then I created a second nurture sequence that was for e-learning prospects. Same deal, 10 emails once a month, next 10 months of my follow-ups to those people, fully and completely automated. And by the way, I have already got replies, and I mentioned it's already led to 1 audition. And I've only been test driving it now for 2 months, which means that a lot of these people have only received just 1 or 2 messages from me as a result of this sequence, and it's already working. So I'm a believer. The third sequence that I'm using is a follow-up sequence to new leads. And so I'm still sending a personalized introductory email, but now I have a targeted follow-up sequence that is fully automated. Once I send that personalized message, I add them to the sequence, and now my follow-ups are automated. I'm seeing results off of that as well. In fact, some of the results that I'm seeing were insane to me. I think it was 96% of the people that I added to that sequence went all the way through the entire sequence, and 25% of them were still clicking emails after the 5th email in that sequence. That is all positive to me. I've got a couple of responses, so I'm right at about 10%, which is a little lower. I'm always trying to aim for 15, or I'd like to see 20, but the fact that they went all the way through the sequence and they are still opening, reading, and clicking messages, to me, that's a positive sign, because if they weren't interested, what would they do? They'd unsubscribe, but they didn't unsubscribe. I got a lot going on a day-to-day basis. I've got this podcast that I have to create. I've got a Facebook community that I have to run. I have courses that I teach. I have coaching sessions that I have to do. I have my own voiceover career to run, agent auditions, client auditions, bookings that I have to do, all kinds of things that are going on a day-to-day basis. So anywhere where I can gain back a little bit of my time is huge for me. Being able to create automated email sequences in Nimble has not only gained back a huge amount of my time, but it has also massively increased my productivity and efficiency, because now I know the emails are going out no matter what. The emails are going to be sent. It is fully automated. It is going to happen. It is happening. And the best part about that is, when we get busy, the first thing that we sacrifice is our marketing, right? Let's be honest. I'm guilty of it as well. So that often means that no follow-ups are being sent. Well, automating means that regardless of what is going on in my day-to-day, follow-ups are being sent. When I have a full day of coaching, follow-ups are being sent. When I have a full day in the studio, follow-ups are being sent. When I have to go into the city to do something for my agent, I'm not even in the office, follow-ups are being sent. If I take a couple of days off to go away with my family, follow-ups are being sent. No matter what the circumstances are now, thanks to Nimble sequences, the follow-ups are being sent. So my advice to you, get the tools and use the tools that can not only increase your productivity, but also your probability of getting access to new opportunities. Success is in the follow-up. Nimble sequences just changed the game on follow-ups and made it exponentially easier to do. Again, if you want to sign up, check it out at nimble.com/MarcScottVO. And that just gets you a little bit longer free trial to play around with it. If you want to dive deeper into Nimble, I do offer a course at VOpreneur.com that shows you exactly how I'm using Nimble. There is not a video for Nimble sequences in that course yet, but there's going to be very soon. I wanted to run my sequences for a little while, make sure that I was using them properly so that I could put a good video into the course. So that will be getting added soon. But no matter what, whether you sign up now or you've signed up in the past, you will get access to that video when it finally does go. But I strongly encourage you, if follow-up is something that you've struggled with and you struggle with it because you can't remember or you struggle with it because you don't have time, automate it so that no matter what, you are being consistent. It is always happening. And I promise you, just that one feature alone, I believe, if you are using it the way that it is designed to be used and using it consistently over time, that one feature alone can be the thing that makes Nimble pay for itself. That's been my experience already, and I've only been playing with it for a couple months. So, nimble.com/MarcScottVO. Check it out. Remember, success is in the follow-up.